Welcome to the VSU Center for Entrepreneurship Small Business Resource Database, where innovators are empowered to succeed on their business journey. This webinar is brought to you by our esteemed community partner dedicated to supporting the mission of small business growth, productivity, and profitability in the thriving ecosystem we foster together.
Welcome to UX Matters for Your Small Business. I'm Lisa Dance, and I'm a user experience research consultant and founder at ServiceE. Let me tell you a little bit about my background, and then we'll get started on the topic. So I have over 10 years experience with user experience research and design, and I've worked with enterprise organizations like Genworth and Indeed, but I've also worked with small and mid-sized businesses and nonprofits. My work usually spans user experience strategy and research all the way to prototyping and testing. Some of the services I do when I work with businesses are doing UX audits of your website or an app, interviewing customers, and usability testing on your website or app. I'm excited that this year in January, I published an ebook called Today is the Perfect Day to Improve Customer Experiences, and it's coming out in the print edition the beginning of June. I also have coming out a small guide that's called Practical Tips for Your Small Business Website. So later on in the presentation, I will share my contact information, sign up for my newsletter so you can learn more about those coming up. So let's get to our topic. UX matters for your small business. So what is user experience? So I always like to start it with a definition just to get us grounded in what we're talking about. So user experience is how a person interacts with and experiences a product, a system, or a service. Now, typically it's thought of as how it relates to a technology or online experience or a device. So you see with these images here, we have everything from like a desktop to a laptop. Here it's a, big screen television and monitor in an office, someone, their cell phone, a tablet. You're thinking about in establishment, a card reader to charge something, or a kiosk for maybe you're checking in or ordering. But then also it's things like, your smartwatch, or at your home, you have your smart refrigerators that have screens on them, or something like your Nest, Google Nest, or those type of smart home devices. So really user experience is how people interact with, these devices and technology, and how does that like really relate to your small business. Okay, so why it's important to your small business is because that typically you're having a website and you're trying to get people to, come to your website for some particular reason and interact with it. And so that's the way that these customers or potential customers are going to interact with your brand. So you've been working on your brand through your marketing and different things like that, and you want to offer them a product or service, and typically they're going to your website, or if you have a physical location, they might go to your location, but maybe they have looked at something on your website first. And so one thing important to think about user experience is that your actions are louder than your mission statement. So it's like, yeah, we want to, provide the best da 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 da, but it's like what your actions are in it and how they experience them. That's what the user experience is. And I know that sounds a little intangible, but we're going to get into some pieces of it so that it'll be easier to understand. But let's talk about first, like the benefits of a good user experience versus a poor one. So when you have a good user experience, someone comes to your website, and then, they're finding what they need. So, they make a purchase, or they book an appointment, or they register for class. So you're going to have those increased sales and revenue. If it's a good experience, then people come back. So you have loyalty and repeat sales. And then they refer you to other people because they had a good experience, right? So that's the, plus side of it. Unfortunately, sometimes that they're poor user experiences. And with that, and we've all experienced it. We've gone to a website or use the app or something, and you couldn't find what you needed or something, you got really frustrated, and so you didn't buy what you intended to buy. So that's lost money. And you might have got so annoyed you say, well, I'm just not coming back anymore. So lost customer. And then of course you told, your friend or something, I was trying to use this and it, didn't work. And so then that's the negative word of mouth. So that's, why it's important to have a good user experience when someone's coming to your website. And then here's a statistic for you that 88% of internet users are less likely to return to a website after poor user experience. So, you don't want to, drive people away. And even if that's, the 88% is, like an inflated number, even like 25%, no one wants to lose 25% of their potential customers, right? So that's why it's important to focus on user experience with your website. So when you think about, well, my website, okay, and I now understand, okay, user experience is important. So like, let me think about how I'm going to get started thinking about that and working on the user experience. Well, key questions to start with are, what's the purpose of your site? Why do you have a site to start with? And here I am sharing some different websites, and I want to make, let me just make one caveat before we get started. As I show you different websites, no website is perfect. I don't care how much money you have, even the largest companies, we've all experienced it, that something on their website isn't great or perfect. So all of these examples, there may be, like I'm showing you something for one part, but it might be another part that isn't so great, but I'm showing you just for sort of that example, right? So here, let's talk about, well, so what's your site's purpose? So here on the top left, it's a bakery, and it shows with the cake that that's something around food, and it's a bakery, and it says serving sweets, and the name says Muller's Bakery. So um, what it is that they're telling you about this bakery, right? Um, if you go to and say, well, the next question, well, who is it for? This can be, sometimes your audience is pretty broad and you don't have to be so specific, but sometimes you need to. So like down here at the bottom left, here for Spencer Fane, that's a law firm, and it says legal guidance for that rises in every step of your business journey. So what's important there that they are a law firm for business, right? So it's going to be for business clients. You wouldn't go to them for, say, a divorce, right? Because that's not what they offer. So when understanding about the website's purpose is to tell you about this law firm and their services and who particular that they serve. So that's very clear there. Uh, that's the same thing right here for this Big Brothers and Big Sisters, which is, all over the United States, and I would imagine maybe all over the world. But this particular one says empowering youth in Northwest Indiana. So specifically it's about youth, and it's for youth in Northwest Indiana. So it's very clear what that's about. Down here at the bottom, this is uh, give your CPAs a call so you understand that this is for accountants. Or here you can see with the pictures and all that this is clothing, and it that they're selling clothing, and it says shop boho style. So that goes back to the third question: is what do you want them to do? So you have your website and you have who it's for, but you want them to do something there. Now, it can be a lot of different things depending on your business or circumstance. It may be that you want them to buy something. You have something on your site to buy, right? So in this case, they want someone to buy something, so it says shop. So they want them to click that button and look at what they have for shopping in it. The bakery, order online, is showing you could order online. I want you to click here with it. here for the CPA, they want you to call. They do have a contact form on their site, but it's really small. And at the bottom, what they have really prominent is they want you to call. So when you think about when someone comes to your website, what exactly do you want them to do? And is that prominent and obvious to them? Now, sometimes it's not something specifically on the website that is an action being taken, like that they can buy something there. It might be that they're coming to look for information, right? So instead of here where it would, here where it's saying volunteer, um, that person could click there and volunteer and fill out the application, but they could click and say volunteer and they're finding out information about being a volunteer. So so those are key questions is, okay, what's your site's purpose? Why do I have a website out here? I'm trying to help facilitate getting more sales or more appointments or more people in a class or more people to event, like whatever it is, the website is supposed to help you with that, right? So understand what your purpose is, who is it for, and so making sure that that's obvious. And then what do you want them to do? Is that obvious on the site? Now, of course, on a website, there are several things that you might want them to do, but you do have to think about and prioritize it. So, like here for the bakery, well, I want them to order online, or here for the big brother, big sister, it's volunteer in or enroll a child. So it's for the people who would come in and be a big brother, or it's for a big brother or big sister, or it's for enrolling a child. So who would be the child who would participate in the program. So sometimes you do have dual purposes and dual actions that you want them to take with it. But so here they're kind of they're right there together at the same level. Because in that case, they are, definitely they want, they're definitely probably in need of as many volunteers as they are needing children to participate in the program. So they both have the same weight. But other times it's like I have a primary thing I want the people to do on my site. And then there may be smaller things, but you want to make sure that primary thing, that first thing you want them to do, that's the most prominent with it. So start out when you're thinking about your website's user experiences, answering those questions, like figuring that piece out. And then next, you want to think about, okay, so what does user experience mean? Like, let me try to break this apart so I can, figure out for my website, what things do I need to have. So here's a framework. It was developed by Peter Morville, and it's called the UX Honeycomb because, the design of it, it looks a bit like a honeycomb. But this is a helpful framework for helping you to sort of evaluate what the user experience of your website is, or when you're sort of thinking about planning what elements to have as part of your website. And it breaks it down into these 7 areas with it: useful, usable, findable, desirable, credible, accessible, um, and valuable. I think I repeated myself. So useful, usable, findable, desirable, credible, accessible, and valuable. So those are 7 elements, and we're going to go through each of them, and I'll show you some examples for each of them and speak to them. Again, like I said, example that I might show you for useful may not necessarily be accessible, or one that's desirable might not necessarily be for usable, but I'm showing you that specific example for that reason. So let's kind of get started. Useful. So does it doesn't meet a need? Uh, does it meet a need? These are four different a need or want. These are four different examples. And so for something, if the website useful, the person's going to it, is this something that they need or they want? So the top left, looking at this for Threshold Counsel, they are um, attorneys, and they help their business attorneys. And so, they have their little tag line that says the advantage of in-house and outside counsel. And then at the bottom, they're talking about intellectual property, startup and entrepreneurs, and outside general counsel. So if you were looking for a business attorney that's going to help you with your startup, you can come right here and you see, okay, yes, that's what I need. And they, offer it. Now, it's not just as simple as that, but that starts on the path of, okay, this might really fit my needs. Let me look more into it. Another one we're looking on here for the top right, this is Maymont. Say someone had said someone's new to town and they say, oh, you should go to Maymont. It's a great park, right? So they come to the website to find out, well, how can I visit Maymont? Well, here it is. It says visit, and then it has the hours because you want to know what the hours are and what the fees are. So and what it offers. And then it starts at the bottom. It talks about their historic garden, the nature center, and different other aspects of it. So it's meeting a need of, okay, this is a place I'm maybe curious about. When can I go? How much it's going to cost? What do they have there? It's answering those questions. Down here at the bottom, uh, Charlena's custom cakes and confections. She offers custom cakes. Now, I chose this one to show that user experience. A lot of times, too, people think of user experience as just what something looks like, right? But it's more than that. It's what it looks like and how it functions as well. So typically, a lot of times on a bakery site, you'll see like pictures of like the cakes and things first off with it. She had a little bit of a different approach, but at the same time, it kind of uh, plays into her brand that custom cakes and confections, because she has this cute little cartoon image of herself, and she's holding like this tall cake and then a slice of it. So it's like it does show a little bit of uniqueness and personality with it that you probably would take a minute to scroll down, which down under that she does have pictures of actual cakes and all that look really good, but that sort of can pique your interest. So you can kind of try things a little different to kind of go with the personality of your brand and see how it works as well. Also thinking about useful, this fourth example, this is pollen.com. Now this website is a bit busy, but it's very useful for us when you think about usefulness, about a need or a want, is that if you need to know what the pollen county is in your area, then they have this search button right up here. You can put in your city or state or your zip code, and it pulls up right there exactly what you need to know. What the pollen count is for the day, what are the top allergens you found out about yesterday and tomorrow. It really fulfills a very specific need within it. You could find this information on other sites, but like a lot of times it's on like a weather site. And so you have to go through the weather information to get to that. But this really specifically answers a need. So while it's not, the site itself, if you're thinking sort of visual, it is sometimes a little busy, but it definitely answers that need of, I need to know what the pollen count is in my area. So that's really important when we think about, is it useful? Does it answer a need or a want? Well, next up, let's talk about usable. Now, usable is very dear to my heart because people come to your website because it's something, they're looking for something, but also they want it to be easy to be able to do it. It shouldn't be that you get on a website and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm working just as hard trying to, get this thing to work or to find something. So is it easy to use? So like for this Mola's Bakery, which I showed you before, it's very easy to get on here. It says order online. You could click order online or click the menu, and here you come up with, I'm sorry, to the right, you come up with the menu items that they have, and they have the categories, so you could pick what you're looking for, and then you could click on a category and pick on a particular item, and pick in the category, and you'll start to see what they offer in that category. So like the cinnamon rolls or the almond logs. And then right here, if you wanted to actually order cinnamon rolls, you could click it. And here you are, and they tell you 6 cinnamon rolls, and you're able to, click whether I think it's with raisins or without, and how many you want. And you're able to start the order process. So when it's usable, it's like, is it functioning well? Like when you click things, is it slow? Is it operating right? Is the information there? If you want to make an order or you have to fill out a form, is that easy to do without any issues that are going to occur with it? So that's another piece of it. It's like, okay, oh, I want them to do something, right? Because we established before, well, what do you want them to do? Well, is it easy for them to do? And so in this case, in ordering online, the steps are pretty easy to get to being able to order. Now, of course, as they start to put in their credit card information or whatever, or select the time that they're going to pick it up or get it delivered or whatever, if that has issues with it, then then it isn't usable. But it's making sure like all the steps to get them to complete what you want them to do is that easy. So that's usable. Next up, let's talk about findable. So this is really a big deal. A lot of times now, people search for information. They may have used a search engine like Google, uh, or they may have seen something on social media. They might have been on TikTok or Instagram or something like that. And then they click on that. They saw something, you had a picture or something that sounded really good. And they click on it. And then it's a link to their website. I mean, to your website. Well, then when they get to your website, they land on a page that's not the thing that they clicked on, right? And so then they have to search around your website to find the thing that they were interested in. Now, this happens a lot to me, like on Instagram, like I'll see a recipe or something, and so I click on the website, and then it's like all these other recipes is not the one that I clicked on, right? So being findable, like being able to easily find what you need or you want, that's a really big deal with it. So when you think about on a website how to make things findable, well, one thing is, to have really good categories. Like here it says services, and then they start to describe um, how they, what services they offer, and what things are important about what they offer and who they service. And then they also have their most popular services down here. So it's easy for you to find what you need. Another way that things are findable is having a good menu on the top of your website. And so here for Maymont, if you click Explore, it breaks down. You can go to Maymont and visit the estate. Also, they have the gardens, and then they also have the other features like the nature center and the farm and different things like that. So having your menu items really clear so that people can actually look at them and find the things that they want. That's important. If your site is big enough that you have a search feature, then if they put in common things that you offer, then the search engine should be able to pull up exactly what they're looking for. If they put in something, if you went to Maymont and you put in um, the Japanese garden, then you expect that the leaks for the Japanese garden would come up. It wouldn't be uh, no results found or something like that. So it's all the ways that you can help them find the information they want. So whether it's being featured across the top menu, it's a drop down menu up under there that has specific items. It's being listed on a page which also links to other services that are complementary. Like that's another way to help people to find something. Um, Having particular sections or articles that break down things like this is for National Geographic and it says maximize the impact in 5 key areas. So then they're talking about their priorities, and then here across it, this is a kind of like a sub menu that they have those 5 things, right? So you're able to drill down and find specific things that you're looking for. So that's really important, is that however someone comes to your website, like they've had gotten a hint that you may have something they need or they want. So when I say like a hint, they may have been referred to you by, someone said, oh, check out such and such's website. Or they may have used a search engine and they put in, the topic they were looking for, and your website came up. They maybe looked at a social media a post and saw it, or some kind of ad. So something has triggered them to come to your website. Now, once they get to your website, is that information there that they're looking for right there on that page? So all those things that are linking into your website, is that going to bring them to the right page? If they land on the home page, are they going to be able to use the menu to find what they're looking for? Are they going to be able to use the search feature? And then as the site is structured throughout, are they able to drill down and get more information, more specific information that they're looking for with it? Because it's really frustrating to people. They come to your website, I think this business has something I'm interested in, and then they can't find it. So findability is very important. Because with a new relationship, they have to be extra motivated to take, more than a few seconds to search around to find something. Uh, they have to be like really positively sure you offer it, or feel like, oh, you're the only one who offers it. Other than that, they'll just click off and go to the next search result, or or go on to something else. So just making sure the information is really readily accessible to them. So next up, desirable. So is it enjoyable to use the website or interact with it? And so then that does come a little bit into the visual piece of it and your brand identity a little bit too. So like, does it look attractive? Is it piquing, your senses in a nice way? So here on the top left, Dogma is as a pet grooming place. And so, it has nice colors and has a couple of pictures of dogs. And it's pleasant, it's fun colors. It helps you, think, okay, this is a nice place. It's not this is a nice place. Looks friendly. This is from probably maybe, we're, thinking, oh, they would be friendly to my, my fur child, right? And so that is the the look of the website, their brand is showing that piece of it. So, so far it's pleasant. And then, as you start clicking and looking throughout the website, uh, as you look at the products and different things like that, you want to, see that it's still visually attractive. What you click on, you're finding the information that you want. It's not anything that's annoying to you. That that's all part of sort of helping you to feel like it's a desirable experience. Or down here at the bottom, just looking here at this Rosenfeld Media, they print books, they have events. And so right here, this part is talking about the events that we produce, world-class virtual and in-person events. So, this is a nice crowd. Everybody has their hand up. It seems like they're involved. And so you say, okay, well, maybe this might be an event that I would be interested, in with it. So it's like, is that appealing to you? Uh, by looking at that image. And so as you clicked on it, would you see other pictures that made it seem like, oh, this would be an event that I would like to go to? Uh, so it's like, is that helping to cement this as, oh, this is something I might be interested in? And as you click through it, is it supporting that? Well, on the other side of desirable, you also have to think about what kind of things that you may do on your website that are not desirable and can be unpleasant. So one of the things that you'll see a lot, and this is an example here for Evernote, is that they have a whole lot of pop-ups. They want you to sign up, and they're pretty persistent about wanting you to sign up and pay for services. And so they will have pop-ups like that. They ask you like, here, were you sure? Are you sure? You click and say, no, I don't want it. And then they ask you, are you sure? Right. And then I've had it where they've asked me 3 times. And then here they have it so it covers the whole screen, right? And so that's like, they're pretty insistent about, don't you want to pay for this service? And so, unpleasant. If you decided, no, I don't want to, and I've clicked, no, I don't want to, uh, asking me a second or a third time in that visit is not the right approach that I would take. Another thing that you'll see a lot is you'll come to a website and there's a pop-up like almost a second until you've gotten on the site. Uh, they'll offer you, 20% off for their email address. And you haven't even gotten a chance to look around the website and to see if they have anything that would really be of interest to you. So that's pretty pushy. I know a lot of people do it. It's all part of marketing. We're going to get, we want to get people contact information so we can send, drip campaigns and, get them to buy. But we also have to measure that against, are we getting a lot of email addresses for people who just aren't interested? So, a better approach maybe is, yes, you want people to join your email list, but maybe only have that pop up, like let them look around the site a little bit and time it, to maybe when they get to a product page and they're looking around a little bit, then you have the pop up and say, hey, 20% off, because they've seen what you have as a product. And then like, yeah, this might motivate them now with the 20% off to, specify their email address. But give them like a chance to actually look and see if they have value. I think that it'd be beneficial for you not having a lot of emails of people who just aren't interested and not engaged with it if you kind of wait and let them look around a little bit with it. So, yeah. So when you think about desirable, think about the positive things that you want people to feel and experience on their website, but you also want to think about the things that are undesirable that you don't want them to experience. So you know, being pushy and people feeling like, they're just forcing them, um, to give the information, and they can't get away from all these pop-ups, then that can be kind of like a pretty unpleasant experience. You see that a lot sometimes, like on sites, like sometimes I'll click on a recipe and they have all these ads, they have all these pop-ups, they have a video coming up, and it's like you're clicking on 5 different things before you even get to look at the recipe which you wanted to look at. So that's just something to consider, like the desirable things, um, you know, when you're looking at, when they're looking at your site, but then also the undesirable things. Then also credible. So is it trustworthy? So is the website trustworthy, but are you as a business trustworthy? And there are a lot of ways that you can kind of show how trustworthy you are. So this particular company here on the top left, Rainbow Construction, it starts with the image at the top. It says residential and commercial construction excellence since 1963. So they're showing that, they've been in business a long time. But also, if you look at the image, if you could look at it really clearly, there are blueprints. The person has the tape measure out, but you also see, like, dirt on the hands and stuff like that. So you feel like, okay, that's authentically somebody who's a builder, who's working in the trade and, actually knows, you know, uh, actually builds houses and knows what they're, doing, right? So that builds on their credibility, sort of like with the image, as well as the fact that they've been in business a long time. But then also what supports it is that they have both pictures of their residential homes, but that's also their commercial homes. They have an interesting way of doing testimonials. They have here with it's like links, and they actually have letters. And these were from their commercial clients, letters of talking about the building that they built for them. But a lot of times you see, just the actual testimonial on the bottom of a website or somewhere like that. But that lets people know, okay, you have satisfied customers, and and if it's a really good testimonial they may have shared, what you did specifically that made it a great experience, or what your skill was within it. So that's um some ways of showing credibility. Another This was a doctor's office. It had 45 years of clinical excellence, so that showed that they've been in business a long time. But if it's because you're a new business, you may not have that, but you might have, you know, some of the brands that you worked with, especially if you're a B2B and you're working with different businesses. But even if you are like a new business and you're only 6 months in, if you have testimonials of, satisfied customers or clients, then, put those things up there. It can also be pictures of your work, whether, like with the bakery, it's, the cake, or if you do websites, then, pictures of websites that you've worked on. Like, how can you show that that I do quality work, you should hire me within it. Other ways that you can show credibility is sharing like your bio. So, where did you learn what you're what you are in business for now, right? So you're uh, detailing your education, or places that you have worked, or any kind of apprenticeship or anything like that. That's also a way of showing credibility within it. But also thinking about credibility, thinking about, okay, in the world we live in now, um, you have to think about, and we're on websites and all, and if it's trustworthy, are they protecting my privacy? Are they protecting my privacy? Are they protecting my data? So if you have things like this, if you're using cookies that you're like required to tell people that, right? But or do you give them options that they can opt out of different things? Do you have your privacy policy? Or if you do refunds or exchanges, what's your policies on different things? Having that information accessible, that also adds to your credibility. Because we want things to be a perfect experience, but sometimes things don't work out. So just having people feel confident that you're confident that if something goes wrong, you have a policy on how things are handled. So yet you're going to think about the elements that are going to uh, make a potential client feel like you're credible and trustworthy. Next up is accessible. Now, that means is your website easy to use for people who have a disability or multiple disabilities. And like a physical location, your website actually has to be accessible, and that's like the American with Disabilities Act. You have to be compliant with that. So right here on the left, this is like a checklist around accessibility, and I have some links and resources at the end of the presentation that you can read a little bit more on it. Um, but some of the things that I see a lot around business websites and how they're not accessible has things to do with, if you see here over on the right, where a lot of times there's text on images, and you can have text on images, but it has to be really clear, like, so that of the image up under it and the lettering, that you're able to see the lettering and the words clearly over top of the image. So, if it's bigger, the lettering and bolder, that's helpful. If you have like an overlay over the image, but under the text so that you can see the text better. A lot of times people like to put a lot of text on images and it's not always that clear. This is not the worst case of it, but it's just to show that sometimes do we really need to have that text on there? Perhaps it might have been better if they had a little small box right here in the corner, and they had a little bit of the start um, of the paragraph information, like this up here, maybe a little bit bolder, but they might have could have started like the paragraph information here instead of having it all over top of the image. So that's one thing that you see a lot of is text over top of images. Also, if you have images, making sure that you have alt text. So alt text means is that if somebody is using a screen reader, so that's somebody who is either blind or they have low vision, and they have the screen reader that can go through the website and read um, all the text. They also read the alt image because they can't read the image itself, but the alt image is where you describe what's in the image when you put it on your website, and then the screen reader can read it. So that's a big one, is making sure with any image that you have that alt text. Having captions when you have video, that's the same type of thing, so that people can understand what's in the video. Uh, they say flexible color schemes, but there are accessible colors and color combinations, and you can, Google them and you can find out more about that. Keyboard friendly browsing. So again, um, either people who are using screen readers or some people who have mobility issues and they aren't able to like click a mouse and things like that, and they have equipment to help them uh, navigate on websites and things like that, and it's they're being um, controlled by the keyboard. And so making sure that somebody can use a keyboard and sort of tab through a website, like it's things like that. Avoid flashy designs. There are people who have sensory issues. A lot of times back then they even had flash on websites and different things like that. That could cause people problems. Um, Small web page size, that's important, especially for people who are using different kinds of accessibility equipment. Um, Things like add an autofill option for form. So like if you're using a keyboard or something like that, then you're not having if you're using keyboard equipment that if you're using accessibility equipment that that is just going by the keyboard, then if you have the autofill options, then that's just a lot easier. Um, Easy to identify links. Now this is something that's really common. It's like, say for instance, you have something on your homepage and then you have more information deeper in the site. Your link, you want to have a link that really is descriptive. So instead of saying learn more, you'd say learn more about the Eden manor house, right? And then that would take you directly to the manor house. But a lot of times you might have 10 pages on 10 links on the website that all say learn more. So when the screen reader is trying to read what's on the page, they can't tell what that link goes to. So that's something else. Description section links. This has a lot to do with in sort of like the when the website is developed and it's in the code of when you're using header 1, header 2, because that helps the screen reader to go across the to read the website within it. No spelling or grammatical errors. Gives intentional options when users make mistakes within it. Uh, make your website elements predictable. So one thing about it, which is really true, is that when websites are there are consistent patterns to website. Like you have your menu across the top, and typically your logo is on the top left, and there's a footer across the bottom. Like if you keep with predictable patterns like that, then it just also makes it really easy for people to find things within it. Um, you know, you want to be creative, but don't be creative like with sort of those basic elements that people need to use to be able to navigate the site. I use thoughtful and inclusive language because people have different abilities and we want to make sure that we're communicating that right. And then this last one was the one I was talking about from the beginning, high contrast between text and other elements. And that goes to, if you look right here down at the very bottom, you see this says, welcome to my website, free shipping on all orders. Well, you barely can see that. And so that's another one, like color contrast is a big one within it. Like a few years ago, it was really popular to have minimalist websites, and you'd have like gray is the background and then just like a little darker, thin text on it. And that was really hard to read for a lot of people. And it was specifically hard to read for people who have low vision, but also it's hard to read uh, if you're outside and nothing's wrong with your vision, and you're outside and it's kind of a little bit of sunny day, you aren't able to see that. So accessibility is really important on a website. And like I said, I have some links in the resources that you can look at as far as what the requirements are for that. And then the last but not least is it valuable? So are you offering like a unique use or service? Like it really goes to your, that your marketing, your unique value proposition. So why am I coming to this site? Why should I consider it? Why should I buy it? Why should I look at more information? Why should I spend time here? So here at the top with this Rosenfeld Media, it's very specific when with the language it has. We connect people interested in design and better user experience with the best expertise available in format that make the most sense and in ways that demonstrate the value of UX. That's a bit of a mouthful, but it's really trying to tell you is that we are trying to bring you high quality user experience information, and we have it in different forms, right? So like that's they're showing that we're going to bring you this expertise in a lot of different ways. So uh that's one far as okay, that's valuable. They're have user experience expertise, and they have it in different options with it. So let's think about their training, their books, their events. Down here, this is a tea company. They talk about how they source teas from different places. And so, okay, they don't have any pictures of tea, but it's like every morning, golden morning. And then we're talking about how they travel the world to find these unique teas, right? So if you really are a tea connoisseur, or you have a special type of tea that maybe it's not available where you live at, like, okay, this site probably has what I would like. Now, they could have, some other tea companies might have, really like a coffee shop like imagery with it, and to show like the different types of teas that they have. So they may display it visually. This one, they're communicating it in words. So you can do it different ways, but it's like trying to show what the unique value proposition is. Here, this one is like a travel company, Signature Expeditions. And so, they have this beautiful picture, and, you don't know where it is, but this looks like an interesting place. And you have, right here, you see this line of like, Jeeps or cars or something. And it's like, okay, they're traveling in uh, this beautiful place, right? So, okay, maybe I want to look more and find out what kind of expeditions do they have, and uh that it's not the run of the mill travel place, right? Travel company. But here with Maymont is talking about that they have this historic estate, and then they start telling you about the history of it. You know what I'm saying? So that makes that unique, because Maymont is a park here in Richmond, but you know, not all parks have a historic estate. And so as you start to learn more about what uh, what the estate is like and what elements that it offers, as a potential visitor say, oh, that's interesting. I would like to see this Gilded Age estate. And they're talking about, millionaires and their elaborate homes. So you're thinking, okay, you know, it's not going to be just a plain building. So that's how you're showing, they use, words, but also the image to show you uh, that value, if that is valuable, that is something unique. So those are those 7 elements when you're thinking about your website user experience. But then you think, okay, so what am I going to do with this? How do I start improving the user experience of my website? So here's some steps. Now, you can, hire a professional like me. I'm a user experience research consultant. Or you can do a DIY, do it yourself approach. And these are sort of the steps that you would take. So first of all, you're going to answer those key questions about your website. So you remember I introduced in the beginning, what was the purpose of website, who is it for, and what actions do you want them to take? So you need to know that. So you have to be really clear about that. You also maybe want to think about what goals do you want to have around your website. Um, then you want to evaluate if you have any customer feedback. Have you gotten any feedback before about your website? If you have analytics, have you looked at the analytics on your website, and are they telling you anything within that to see if that can give you any sense of maybe potential issues or problems, things that you might want to learn more about or maybe make some changes on. Then when you can review, if you're sort of doing it by yourself, sort of review your website against the key UX elements. So like, is it useful, usable, credible, desirable, right? And like map out, okay, how am I showing that I'm credible? Do I have testimonials? Do I show my clients, do I have pictures to show my work? Like, how am I showing these particular things or demonstrating them? So you could review that and start to see some of the areas that you might need to work on. Now, I always, as a user experience professional, testing your website with customers or potential customers is really important. All right, so that's like I do usability testing. So maybe you're not skilled in doing usability testing, but maybe you have a friend or someone who doesn't know a lot about your website. So they haven't been in the weeds of your website, because you want a neutral person that can come through and look at your website from this perspective of a potential customer and say, hey, when I looked on here, I know you have an event, but I can't find it on your website. And give them to go through and look for any particular issues, right? And so then you start to have a list of those types of things. So then you bring together like how you review the website in step 3 with the step 4 where you're testing it. And if you have potential customers or that you could test it with, then that's fine too. That's great. And then you have those lists and you sort of combine and see, okay, well, these are the issues of things that I need to work on. And so then you have to prioritize, because yeah, we can't do everything all the time. So you start to prioritize, thinking about, okay, well, what has the biggest impact, or what did I get at the most complaints about, or this is really going to hurt, stop people from, say, buying something on my website or making an appointment or whatever the particular goal is. So then you start to prioritize, okay, what's the most important thing that I want to make changes on? And then you start working on making those changes. And then you want to continue to collect feedback. So you made the changes, okay. Are you collecting feedback to see, okay, are things going okay? And monitor the analytics to see if there are any issues with it. So like all of a sudden people are not filling out your contact form anymore. Okay, well, I was getting, 10 people a month and now I'm only getting 2. Well, okay, then my analytics are telling me, okay, something's maybe going on here. So maybe let me go through and test the form out and see if I'm finding any issues. You know what I mean? So that's how you kind of continue to collect feedback and monitor your analytics to see if there are other problems. And then a big piece of it is keeping your website up to date. A lot of times there are people who still have websites. I ran into something today where a website had something from 2020. That was 4 years ago. You got to kind of keep these, your website up. So, depending on how much information you have changing on your website, you may have to, take a quick peek once a month just to make sure it's up to date. You might can do it every 3 or 6 months, but just keep it up to date, because when people go to look for stuff and you have older information, that kind of, that does, challenge credibility a little bit. So you just want to do that. And so those are kind of like the steps to get started on improving your website user experience. So here's a list of resources from this presentation that you can look at and, find out more information on the things that I have talked about. And, if you have any follow-up questions, here's my contact information. I mentioned earlier that I have a book that's QR code for that. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and I also have the newsletter here on the right. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you would definitely get notice on when I have that guide, the practical UX tips for small business websites. Then that should be out in the next month. So if you follow me, my my newsletter, or visit my website periodically, then there definitely will be information on that as well. So thank you so much. And again, UX matters to your small business.